So let's start this. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We are very, very happy to have you here tonight. This is one of many webinars that Omnos Academy will bring to you, and more on that soon. As you can see, today Thomas is sitting in the guest chair. Hi, Thomas. How does it feel to be there?
Nice, actually, to be a guest.
Okay. Hold on. So we're getting up and close during this interview, hopefully. And we call this webinar Connecting the Dots, because that is an integral part of what Omnos does, connecting the dots of your biomarkers and lifestyle, and give you a 360 view of your health and how to optimize your health. This time, we invited Thomas to tell us how he connected the dots until he reached Omnos and the place where he is now. So let's introduce our already famous guest. He is the face of Omnos, a sports scientist and an ex-French swimming champion who has a keen interest in hiking, deep diving, and Greek mythology. He's also an author of the book Cracking Your Health Code. Thomas is a registered nutrigenomics practitioner and was the first in UK to offer fitness and nutrition plans based on individual DNA to help athletes reach to their full potential. That's a lot. Thomas is also the founder and CEO of Omnos, and Omnos wants to democratize health by providing scientific evidence-based knowledge in an accessible way to help to optimize, again, your health. So before starting the actual interview, I would also remind everyone that is attending that we'll be offering a gene test as promised, and that our team will reach out to everyone that is attending with an email. So please be aware of your email, and you will have the chance to apply and win this genetic test. So Thomas, let's dig in deep. How did you get started swimming, and what eventually drove you into excellence? Is like a family thing?
Well, excellent. I've never been excellent at swimming. I mean, no, I was good, but I started because my parents were too disturbed by me being hyperactive.
Okay.
So yes, as a kid, I was that kid, you know, in a classroom but could not sit. So and that was very clear, very young. And actually, my parents even seeking for help, because obviously the teacher, you know, even in the kindergarten, were not happy. And I was, yes, definitely, before that, it was just, you know, the kid that doesn't stop. Now you call it ADD or hyperactivity. But yeah, and I think that I'm very grateful for my parents that actually, instead of going down the route of what they've been suggested at such a young age, I think I was 5 or 6, medicine for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was very common, but now those medicines is something you want to avoid, especially at this age. So I'm very grateful that they didn't put me down that route, but instead it's like, okay, we're going to make him swim, we're going to make him do martial arts, we're going to make him, and it did the trick, or at least a bit.
Okay, yeah. But swimming was the one where you excelled, right? You are a champion for France.
Yeah.
So how long was your swimming career? How was the development of that?
7 years old. I was swimming pretty much every day. And then, yes, like I remember my, between 7 and maybe 18, my whole time, every evening was in the pool, weekend was in competition. Yeah, it was pretty intense.
And then you were into competition, and somehow you stumbled into genetics. So yeah. Can you tell us how it happened?
Well, I'm ADD, remember? So
okay, so let's put a pin on that word. No, just kidding.
You know, I always got interested into diversity and um, I actually wanted at some point being an anthropologist, and study tribes and everything. And then my parents made me realize that actually, if I wanted to do those studies, it was quite a lot of money for them. It's not possible. So I said, okay, well, I'll be a sports scientist then. But the I guess I got started when I remember having this old computer, and you had this. I was fascinated by a sort of encyclopedia you had on the CD-ROM, and you could sort of go through genetic and look. And it was actually just at the beginning of where we sequenced the whole genome. And I remember just finding this fascinating. And then having maybe this in my head, and maybe it's training and realizing people were different, and like started looking into this. But it was not until much later that I got into applying it, I would say. I was always, I always got intrigued by the, in my book I describe the little story of the very, very big, because it's just fascinating how big it is, right? But we are 99.9% exactly the same, but 0.1% make us different. And this 0.1% is actually huge, because we know now that, if you take one gene, if you zoom in into one cell and you go to the nucleus, you've got 6 foot tall of DNA in one cell, and you've got 3.2 billion of them, trillion, sorry. So it's enough to go to the moon and back twice, just
Yes.
DNA. So I just found this fascinating, and this is what I wanted to understand it more.
And did your background as an athlete influence then the area where you wanted to spread your knowledge and go deeper?
I guess the nutrition part, yes, a lot, because I realized that I used to train quite a lot, and I was eating like crazy all the time, because I was burning it all. But I was not necessarily at the time eating the right things all the time. And something I realized is I was having a lot of crashes and being very tired. So I thought it was just the training of, the day before, swimming 3 to 4 kilometers per session. But actually it was more the nutrition that I had, because I used to swim, have on the way back, just having in France, passing by the boulangerie, having a baguette with Nutella. And that was just the snack, a whole baguette. And then it was about having dinner, and then and it was not necessarily the right thing for me to do, because now that I know, looking at my gene, I'm predisposed to be type 2 diabetes. So my insulin will crash, and I would have those huge crash and feeling very tired. So yeah, this is how I started discovering, like, okay, if I change, once I've started changing this, sorry, but it made a massive difference in my performance, in how I felt. And this is where I got really interested in nutrition, and started actually also teaching, or educating rather, my colleagues, my swimming colleagues.
Okay, and at a point you created your own company. You were a coach for athletes with implementing DNA testing and specific plans. When was this, or the year? Can you remember?
Yes. I think back in 2008, I was already starting doing some testing, and a bit later, more testing via other company, but then later working directly with a lab. But at the time, it was very, very different.
Yes, so I really wanted to ask you that. How was genetic testing in 2008 and today?
When I first started, I remember it's almost comical now, because first, people were not really aware of, like, oh, I can do a DNA test. So I used to have a lot of, people looking at me like, what do you mean? Like, are you going to clone me? What are you doing? No, it's for, to understand, and maybe we can apply a tailor-made, plan and nutrition plan for. At the time, I was very focused on performance. First, because only top athletes could actually afford that. It was very expensive compared to now. If you put things in perspective, when they sequenced the first genome, it cost 3.2 billion, right? But now you can do the full genome for less than $1,000. So it's just changed very quickly. But back in the day, it was still very expensive, and the method was also different. We use what we call PCR, when you can still use PCR, but now we use genotyping, which is a lot more accessible. And PCR was taking, a bit more time. It was complex at the time, and also the process, because there's no company or that were facilitating this. So I was sort of set up with a lab, which was in South Africa, but then I had to organize all the logistic around and sending things and returning, like, because he was saying human samples, but it was just a mouth swab. And having DHL always or other companies just like, no, we cannot take this, it's human sample. No, it's just a mouth swab. And I used to gross out my friends, where I used to go for lunch with them, and I had a backpack full of a team of football or whatever, samples, and like, did you realize? So yeah, it was a lot different.
You were the different friend,
yes,
carrying
but
mouth swabs.
it was more into the interpretation of it. There was not so much, first, not as many genes were studied, so there's not so much research. So it was maybe 10 main genes at the time, and you could not really get a lot out of it. At the time, it was already very innovative, and you could actually, it was still very interesting, but now in comparison, it's just incomparable what you can get out of a genetic test.
Incomparable. Okay, so that pretty sums it.
Yeah.
So, and after the genetic testing, you weren't satisfied. So you wanted more. You wanted to connect more dots. So
yeah, because
enters functional medicine.
Yeah.
How was that? How was that dot connected?
So this was more by realizing that actually genetic is just an amazing tool to understand who you are, what you are made of, and to create this relationship with your own biology. I think this is the important bit. It's like, this is you, this is the make of you, and this is how you work. But it doesn't tell you what's going on right now in your body. What the nutrition deficiency you may have, the nutrient deficiency you may have, the certain imbalances with your hormones or toxins you may have in your body right now. Well, you can find out through genetic tests that you're predisposed not to remove toxins. You don't know if you have or not any toxins. If you can find out that you are, low vitamin, you're predisposed to having lower vitamin C intake, or you need greater vitamin D intake, but you don't know what's going on in your body. So that's why I wanted to connect the dots by incorporating more tests. So you have the whole story, really. This is what you're made of. So then, yes, it makes sense to investigate what you are missing in your body right now, because you're predisposed to miss, let's say vitamin C, and yes, you have frequent infections, and you feel, so all the symptoms of low vitamin C. Let's actually check that. And now you know that you need greater intake of vitamin C, because this is the thing right now, like, in your body, you're very low. So.
And you are able then to keep track of your own progress by functional testing.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you post an ad in the newspaper? How did you start to reach out to the right people?
The beginning was more sort of exclusive, I would say. Central London, having clients, and then it was more about, I had a few articles, and it was funny. One of them was I've been criticized for, because it was called the DNA dietitian, and it was all 3 pages on what I was doing, but I was not a dietitian, and I never claimed I was a dietitian, and I got criticized because you cannot really do that at the time as a dietitian. So I was like, okay. So yeah, it was interesting. But no, it was more by referral, I would say, and really people wanted to learn a bit more about themselves, and getting this security of, okay, understanding who I am. And sometimes most of the time for athletes was more about what they knew already, but being reassured by it, right? Because the worst case scenario for any top athletes would be an injury, for example. So if they overtrain, you're more likely to have an injury. So understanding that actually you don't have to do so much rehab, but yes, you do need to reduce inflammation and enhance recovery. And you can have more antioxidant diet and all those different things. That helped them, to actually do what they were doing already really well. So yeah, it's this peace of mind they were looking for, I guess. But the exciting bit also understanding how they work.
How they work, yes. So probably everyone present knows how Omnos works and the dashboard and how we connect the dots. There's a lot of dots to be connected there, and Omnos is your it's your product to the world of all your journey and content and people and all that you were talking about. And you also mentioned that you like, you mentioned in your book that you like Greek mythology and following the hero's journey. So heroes go away to break a paradigm, then they face a lot of ordeals, and then they come back, change, and with some brand new idea to change the world. So can I ask you if you feel like Omnos is like your hero's journey, if it fits the dots?
Yes,
of the...
like it a lot of time, because there's obviously, I guess when you try anything new, you will have hurdles, and that's the exciting bit, is trying to make something that is seen as very technical and medical, to try to make it accessible for everyone in a way that you can access it and understand it. Yeah, I think this is where the hero's journey is. We talk about democratizing health. It is really a hero's journey. But I'm not the hero here anymore. We have an amazing team, and that's exciting because when I first started, I've been solopreneur for quite a long time, and it was a bit, and now having this amazing team around that understand the mission and really breathe it and make it happen is just amazing. So yeah, I guess it's the reward of this hero's journey is this. Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of books, any other book coming soon, or is that done?
I have a book, but I don't have a title for it, but it's finished.
Okay, can we take a sneak peek?
Yes, definitely. It's this book is a bit more technical. It's about a new health architecture, really, and it's about a health architecture that is democratized in the sense that everybody has access to it, decentralized in the sense that it's not happening in a place where you break down. So, like for example, hospital or clinics, but at your home. So it's a bit futuristic in the sense that we look at I look into all the new technology that we can incorporate to make health available in real time to everyone. And this is also what we're doing with Omnos. So we're talking about incorporating technology like artificial intelligence, blockchain, and for securing your data so you can have data ownership, the IoT, which is the Internet of Things. So things are connected around and you don't have to do much, but things happen for you. So there's all those different things that I describe, and how we can actually create an amazing new health architecture based on all those new technology, and it should be happening now with our time, because we have an amazing system when it comes to if someone needs to save your life, and you can see that with the pandemic which we just have. You have amazing doctors that can do that. But when it comes to prevention, we don't have yet real-time intervention. And we do need that because the NHS now is under this huge burden of chronic illnesses that can be prevented from us. And we need a system that is a lot more proactive and based on prevention, predictive analytics and prevention. So we're talking about artificial intelligence and all those different things. Yeah.
Wow. So looking forward for that.
Yeah.
A glimpse into the future, a better
But,
future. We sure need it. Yes. So you said quite a few times already, breaking a paradigm shift. So can you tell us, as a paradigm shifter, what are the biggest challenges?
I think I mean, the challenges were very different, let's say 2 years ago, pre-pandemic, let's say. Because the challenges was, why would I do a test myself? I can go to a doctor, and now the pandemic somehow have changed the mentality, because at-home testing has becoming a thing. We all pretty much done the PCR nowadays, and it's interesting to see that there's a real awakening happening now. Even before it has started already before, with the realization that, okay, we need now to regain control of our health, but we didn't know how to do it. There was test available, but now it's becoming a norm. So that's one hurdle that is hopefully changing. And I think a lot of things will change around that, in terms of the infrastructure and how even the government might help for that. But the mentality also, in the sense that now people understand that, okay, I am at the center of my health, and I need to be proactive if I want things to change. So is this narrative that we always had, and somehow was ingrained into our mind, of like, okay, if something happens to me, well, it's bad luck because it was meant to be, or but now we start to understand, and we understand actually, that all those chronic illness, dementia, and most of it can be preventable. It takes many years to develop, and it's through lifestyle intervention and diet intervention. And yeah, now we can understand and make those changing that can. So yeah, but those, I would say, are the two main hurdles that are not so much of a hurdle, but still there's a lot more to make things accessible for everyone. That's also the mission of Omnos, is trying to be the precursor of making things a lot more accessible financially, but also in the application of understanding, translating the language of the complex almost dogma of the medicine into something that we can understand. So there's also this cultural hurdle that needs to happen, right? And making accessible, through words we understand, because yes, medicine can be complex.
Yes, so you mentioned the pandemic. So there's a correlation between this whole new circumstance that we're living in the planet, and at-home testing, right? There's, you, even if I recall, had some numbers of growth.
Yeah, I think it's now it's 33% of more people are more likely to do at-home testing. And in average now in the UK, in wellness in general, post-pandemic, the yearly spend would be around £450 into wellness, and it's 3 times more than it was before the pandemic. So I think there's another boom happening now.
Is this also a paradigm shift, right?
Yes, I think so, and that's very exciting, because it's also supported by all the new technology that's coming. So everything is converging at the right time, and that's very exciting as well for us, because we really worked hard for many years trying to build this machinery behind of connecting the dots, because what we see in the dashboard is the beautiful part, but at the back it's just a huge cross-references of data and calculation that Ben, my co-founder, also worked very hard at putting together. So it's yeah, it's exciting that we can now make all of this available.
So I imagine that you walk the talk and you do all your testing and you know your genes.
I can say yes. I had it delivered.
Yes, yeah, oh, so perfect. To the hotel room, right? So how, in this journey of discovering yourself, your biomarkers, what I think you called your authentic biologic self, it, all this knowledge about your chemical performance and genomics and everything, is this at the beginning of some big change in your life? Do you have life-changing moments that come from a necessity to be better for your own health?
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, there was a lot of those moments actually. The first one is the one I mentioned without testing, which was you know, when I've really paid attention to my diet, how it made a massive impact. But then also being in London, I used to live really close to a road, and I knew from my genetic tests that my genetic pathways were pretty bad. I'm really bad at detoxing. And I knew from the symptom I had, it was probably due to certain toxins. And I did the envirotoxin test before the platform, and it was very high. Like the pollution, certain car toxin, car fumes were super high, like super dangerously high actually, in my system. And creating the platform, I could see it on the first dashboard we had, and it was very exciting to see that actually over time I've reduced it and really make a massive difference in just the thing that I was implementing, from you know, doing more sauna, taking certain supplements that will support my liver, this sort of thing. But also when I had my son, and said, there's no way, you know, I want him to be exposed to that, so I moved somewhere where there was no, you know, car fumes pretty much, and that makes a massive difference. And now I do not have any of this, you know, in my reading. I mean, there's a lot of example I could give you, but yeah, there's a lot.
No, but this is significant. You moved countries because of your genes.
Because of, yeah, because of my genes, because of I need to walk my talk, in the sense that I'm still maybe coming back to being ADD. You know, it's hard to switch up for me in London, and I'm very busy with Omnos, but I'm very excited about it. But I do need to switch up as well to recharge. And yeah, I decided to work remotely with the pandemic, and I think it was the best choice, because when I started doing this, I got my energy back, and you know, I had my routine in the morning that I could do in nature, whether I'll go swimming or I go, you know, in the sea, or, you know, yeah. So it make a massive difference, and it made a massive difference in also all of those reading. You know, my hormone test, for example, you know, cortisols, all those things were back to normal ranges. So it's very exciting to see, and to come back again to the simplest things are always, you know, the basics, right? So sleep, you know, being exposed to.
Yes, I wanted to ask you, what are your health care pillars right now?
Why not today, because I've traveled very
Not
much.
today, but when you're living your intended life.
Sleep is obviously, I think, for everyone is very important. We're just wired this way. We need enough sleep, and we need quality sleep. So there's a whole preparation to it, and you start actually when you wake up in the morning, right? So looking at sunlight, even if there is not presence, and you still go outside and see the light, it will send some signal for you to prepare right, for the day, because this light actually has certain array, and it triggers certain hormones. But anyway, so sleep was a massive one, but also blocking the time. I always was quite organized. I had to have rituals and being very organized and focused in my work. But I really now dedicate time even more into things like meditation, or yes, trying to have going in nature, in the natural environment. Yeah, that's the thing that I have done.
Okay, very well. We're almost getting, yes, to the end. I actually have, I told you I would have a surprise question for you. And what?
Tell me.
Yes, imagine that you would meet the genius of the lamp and he would grant you a wish. So Thomas has a wish.
Okay.
And you can use it as you please, without giving it probably much thought. What would you, where would you spend it? What would you make happen?
I would actually jump in the future to come now, in the sense that
that's a very complicated request for the genius.
The test will be at a very, very low cost, because the governments will have realized how much money it will save them, even maybe offered for free, and everything will be wired around you to actually like an orchestra almost, to optimize your health at every touch point. That would be my wish.
You're
a weird one, but that's my wish.
It's exactly, you're going to make it happen, hopefully. Okay, so I don't know if we have any questions.
You can ask if you have any questions, sure.
There's someone that says, hi, looking forward to this, have done all the Omnos tests, and last week hormone bloods, need help. Yes, Thomas, we can help, right?
Yes. So for every test, there's consultation. You can have your consultation. So if you have not booked it yet, please do so.
Yeah. So no more questions.
Do you have any more questions?
Oh, we could stay here and talk all night, but we run to the questions. Do you want to add something?
No, I'm all good. And thank you for taking the time for preparing this and talking and asking all those questions.
And we're also letting these lovely people that are attending know that in 2 weeks, we'll be together again, talking about epigenetics. So Thomas will be wearing his expert hat, and we will be learning epigenetics from the very, very beginning, from genes, alleles, genomic expression, whatever. If you have questions, doubts, please reach out. And we will try to answer some of your questions on our next webinar in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, and good night.
Good night.
See you soon. Bye.